Welcome to this week's Moonlight of Emuna, Parshas Re'eh. This week's learning should be a schus for Fu Shalema, for Shlamas Cham, Bashifra, Nus and Feitel ben Yehudis, Yehud ben Nachman, Rechon per Malkalei, Shmuel Shezam ben Chavachava, Menachem Mordechai ben Ofira, and Lilu Nishmas, Chanamash, Bas Menachem Mendel, Ratz Bas Menachem Mendel, and Henya Bas Yechiel Mechel. So Parshas Re'eh, as I mentioned, every one of these Parshas in Chumash Devarim, chock full. It's very hard to decide what to discuss. But I saw a beautiful idea from the Al Shech HaKadosh that really, on two different parts of the Parsha, that really I think gives us a lot to think about and to understand our relationship with Hashem and our place in this world. So if you go in the Parsha, in Perek Tezvav, so this is after Shishi, so you have two psukim that seem to be a contradiction. It says in Pasuk Dalet, Perek Tezvav, Pasuk Dalet, Efes ki lo yeh b'cha evyon, that there'll be nobody who's poor amongst you. Ki baruch yivrech Hashem ba'aretz, because Hashem will bless you in the land. Asher Hashem lekech noisen l'chol nach l'rishta, that Hashem has given you for as an inheritance and to possess it. If you go a few psukim later in Pasuk Yud Aleph, it says Ki lo yechdal evyon Mikarev Aretz, you'll never be lacking poor people in the land. Al kenach mitzavcha lemer, therefore I say to you, I command you, pasech tiftach es yadcha, to open up your hands, lachicha laniecho levyoincha ba'aretzecha, to open up your hands to your brother, your poor, and the destitute in your land. Right. So these two psukim seem to contradict each other. The pasuk Dalet seemed to say that Hashem is giving us a bracha that there'll be no more destitute, there'll be no more poor people. But then in Yud Aleph, Hashem says there will always be poor people, and you should open up your hands. Now, what's interesting is, first of all, we have that stira, and number two is, like, we're always bothered by this question, like, why are there poor people? Why does Hashem give us poor people and then tell us to give tzedakah? Why not just not have poor people? Let everybody have what they want. We know Hashem takes care of everybody anyway. So the Al Shech has a very interesting approach to this. And I'll just read a few words from the Al Shech HaKadosh. He says, "Va'inyan hu ki hu yisbarach hamasakin ha'olam." Hashem is the one who corrects the world, fixes the world. B'vay l'sakin ha'asher al yedei ani. He comes to correct the rich person, the wealthy person, by means of the poor person. V'ha'ani al yedei asher, and the poor person by means of the rich person, right? And he umaysif al mammon ha'asher. He gives the wealthy person extra money, chelek harash, the portion of the poor person, so that he should give it to him. This is the way that Hashem wants to correct the world. Meaning, if we listen to the Al Shech's words, the extra money that the wealthy person is giving to the poor person is really the poor person's money. Hashem just set it up in this way so that the poor person has to come on whatever he needs in his life, right? We know that Hashem custom tailors, and we'll see in a few minutes from the Al Shech something more about this. But each person, everything is custom tailored, and therefore Hashem is arranging the money for the poor person as well. He's just giving it through the usher. Why? Because the ani has something that he has to correct in his soul, that he needs to, for whatever reason, maybe it has to do with whatever the correction of his soul is, that he has to go to the wealthy person and ask for the money, and the wealthy person has to work on himself to overcome giving away money. But we have to recognize, what we see clearly in the Al Shech's words are that when a wealthy person is giving tzedakah, it's not his money that he's giving away. Hashem entrusted him with the poor person's money, which should, first of all, make it easier to give the money away, knowing that. Number two, also should be a warning to us to be very careful that when we give tzedakah, not to feel that, oh, I'm giving away my money, I'm being generous. No, Hashem entrusted you with this money for the poor person. Why that poor person was meant to be poor? That's for his correction of his neshama. But the correction of the neshama for the wealthy person is the way he approaches the tzedakah, recognizing that Hashem only entrusted me with this money, the amount of money that I'm supposed to give to tzedakah. However you figure that out, there's not a halacha share in the halachas of meiser and giving away tzedakah. But however I'm supposed to give that away, I'm entrusted with this. It's not my money that this person is coming to take from me or to nudge me, right? And for the poor person, he shouldn't sit there thinking, woe is me that I don't have the money. The money is there. It's just that Hashem set it up in this way because there are certain things that have to be corrected in people's neshamas. There's a famous Gemara in Baba Basra that's often quoted where Turnus Rufus asks Rabbi Akiva, if Hashem loves poor people, why doesn't He take care of them? And Rabbi Akiva said it's like a king who got angry at his son. He threw him in the dungeon, and he said that nobody should give him anything to eat or drink. But one person had Rahmanis and went and gave the kid anyway. The king ultimately rewards that person, right? Because ultimately it's his son. Right now he was angry, he was trying to punish him, but he appreciates when people take care of him. That's what Hashem does here also, and maybe that's the explanation of the stira in the two psukim that we said, that there won't be poor people and there'll always be poor people. Meaning it's Hashem's cheshbon that there's going to be poor people for us, but we shouldn't look at this as a punishment. This is not a question of reward and punishment. Hashem understands the nature of every neshama and creates for them the way that they need to fix that neshama. We may not be able to see it. So this poor person, he may be poor on the outside, but that's for the benefit of the person who's not poor, so that he can help him. But he's still the king's son. He's not really poor, right? That king's son who's in the dungeon appears to be right now, if somebody didn't know that he was the prince, it appears that he's very poor. It appears that he has nobody to take care of him. But people who understand the situation would still be jealous of that prince, because they know that in a few days his father's gonna forgive him and he's gonna be the prince in the palace again. So we shouldn't look at it. So the first pasuk is saying that there's not going to be any poor people. Meaning Hashem says, don't look at this as if a punishment. It's just whatever this person has to go through. And the truth is, if we think about it, all of us go through poor stages in our lives and wealthy stages. That could both be economically, it could be with other things that we have going on in our lives. There are periods in our lives where we're wealthy, we're on the giving side, and that could, again, it's not necessarily just talking about monetarily. It could be that I'm in a position to help somebody else out emotionally, with getting them to a good doctor or whatever it is. And there are times that we need other people's help, right? It's not just financial. It's not just how big your bank account is. There are moments in our lives that we are poor. But at those moments, we should think about Hashem saying there's no really poor people, because you still have a father who's looking out for you. For whatever reason, your neshama needs to go through this at this moment. But you're not really poor. There are no real poor people in the world. There are no poor people in Hashem's land, right? Because your father is going to ultimately take you out. He just needs you to go through this thing at the moment. And then when we're at those times where we're wealthy, and again, it doesn't necessarily mean financial wealth. When we're at that time where we can help others, we should remember that those people who need our help, they're not a nuisance. We're here, as the Alshich said, that the ani is here to help the usher get what he needs in life, and the usher is here to get the ani what he needs in life. This is a partnership. The thing that I can do to help that person, again, whether it's financial or something else, that Hashem gave me to give that person. And we have to be very careful about that, not to be like annoyed that somebody's asked me for a favor. Hashem gave me that ability to do that person a favor. Both of our souls are being corrected in this process. So if we think of it as that way, when we're going through a difficulty or when we have the ability to help somebody, it's not reward and punishment. It's what our souls need. It's exactly custom tailored. And we have to remember that there's our Father in the palace who's orchestrating this, and if we feel like we were thrown in the dungeon and we're all alone, we remember that the king's not going to forget about us, and he's going to reward the person who helped us. And there's another alshich on the parsha that doesn't seem to be making the same point, but I think if we look at it a little deeper, it's a tremendous point, and it comes down to the same thing. Earlier in the parsha, Perek Yud Beis Pasuk Vav, right? This is in the first aliyah of the parsha. It talks about when we're going to come to Eretz Yisrael and we're going to bring karbanos, and then Pasuk Vav says, "Ve'aveisim sham olisechem v'zivcheim." You will bring there your oilers, your carbon oilers, and your other karbanos, that's masresechem and your meiser, that's trumas yedchem and your truma, the gifts of your hand, v'nidrechem and those voluntary offerings that you made, right? The karbanos that you went, uvechayres bekarchem v'tzaynecha, and the firstborn of your cattle and your flocks. V'achaltem sham, the pasuk zayin, v'achaltem sham l'nei Hashem lekechem, and you'll eat there before Hashem your God. Usmachtem b'chol mishlach yedchem, and you will rejoice with your every undertaking. Atem uvatechem, you and your household. Asher beirachecha Hashem lekecha, as Hashem your God has blessed you. And if you notice, if you pay attention to those two psukim, the beginning of the psukim, everything is in plural. Vehevesem, you'll bring. Oileisechem, that's all plural. V'zevchechem, ma'asresechem, trumas yedchem, it's all plural. But at the end of pasuk Zayin, when it says asher berachecha Hashem lekecha, that Hashem your God blesses you, that is singular. And why the switch to singular? So the Alshich again here explains. He says It's all Lashon Rabbim. When you bring the karbanos, you'll do the karbanos. Why? Because we know there's a concept of B'roivam Hadras Melech, that when you do mitzvahs, you should do them with a lot of people together, right? It's beautiful to bring karbanos publicly, to do mitzvahs publicly. But when it comes to schar, when it comes to Hashem blessing you, Beirachecha Hashem Alikecha, it switches to Lashon Yachid, to the individual. Why? Because the scales and the measuring of Hashem to give rewards, that Hashem does with each and every single person individually, right? Because you could even have 600,000 people doing one mitzvah together, right? They're not going to get the same schar, because each person, it's going to be based on his kavana, his intent, his how focused he was to do it l'shem shemayim, right? You could have two people eating these karbanos that they brought, right? And one is sitting there saying, "It's amazing, I get to be here and serve Hashem by eating this delicious food, but we're serving Hashem, we're being mekayim the mitzvah carbon," and the other person is sitting there thinking, it's great barbecue, it's delicious. Wow, the chef is great, and he doesn't think about Hashem, right? Hard for us to imagine sitting in Yerushalayim by the karbanos, but the truth is, it's for us also. When we sit at a Shabbos table, or even a random meal during the week, do we stop and say, you can have two people next to each other, they both make a bracha, they both start to eat their food. From the outside, it looks exactly the same, but one of them is sitting there thinking, "Thank you, Hashem, for all the blessing you've given me in my life, and I'm eating this so that I could serve you, and I appreciate how delicious the food you give me is, and I appreciate everything else in my life." And the other person is thinking, they could have used a little bit more salt, or this is the best steak I had, right? The question is, we say on Shabbos, I think I've mentioned this here before, some people have the minhag to say before you eat, let's say the first bite of fish, the first bite of meat on Friday night, you say L'kavod Shabbos Kodesh, right? And there was, I forget which tzaddik, I think it's brought down in some of the benches, I really should have looked it up, but I didn't know I was going to say this, said that you're not being honest when you say L'kavod Shabbos Kodesh, because really you're not doing it L'kavod Shabbos Kodesh, or most of the time you're not. You're doing it L'kavod mein boch, in honor of my stomach, right? I enjoy this food. So he says instead to use the lashon of the pasuk for karasa l'Shabbos einig, right? You could mention that it's einig Shabbos. It's more honest, right? Even though I'm eating it for my own sake, because I enjoy this food, but also across l'Shabbos einig, right? But now, say l'kavod Shabbos Kodesh, you have to be on a high level. So you can have two people eating the same Shabbos meal, they're eating together, and one person is doing it l'shem shemayim, and the other person is doing it l'shem his boch, l'shem his stomach, right? So it's very different. On the outside, it looks the same. So the Alshich points out here, you could have 600,000 people bringing karbanos together, eating karbanos. On the outside, it looks like they're all doing the same beautiful mitzvah l'shem shemayim, which is true, and it's beautiful that they're doing it together. But inside, they're very different mitzvahs. So therefore, says the Alshich, that's why the Torah goes to individually. On the outside, it looks like the same carbon. And it's all Lashon Rabbim, right? Vehevesem, oilei seichem, zivchechem, maisrei seichem, trumas yedchem, va'achaltem. It's all usamachtem. You'll all be happy. But when it comes to beiracha, the bracha, then it's beirachecha. Hashem will bless each of you individually based on the way you do that mitzvah. The way you do that mitzvah, that's how Hashem is going to bring you bracha in your life. The true simcha you feel to be able to serve Hashem. So I think that the way that these two are connected is really, they're two different lessons, but they remind us that everything is custom tailored from Hashem. The positions we're put into life, whether we're an ani or an usher, and again, it doesn't mean just financial, whether we're poor or wealthy, and it changes sometimes from day to day. Sometimes we're having a great day and it's a wealthy day. Sometimes it's a poor day. That's all custom tailored. There's certain corrections that Hashem is making there. So today I may need somebody else's help. Tomorrow I'm in a position to help another person, right? That's all custom tailored for what I need. Hashem is very medayik. And on the other side, on the reward side, you could have 100,000 people sitting there doing the mitzvah, the same exact mitzvah, but Hashem looks at each and every one of us and looks into our hearts and to our minds and knows exactly how to reward us for that mitzvah. So we should never think that anything is just haphazard. Why? I did the same mitzvah as that guy. Why did he get a bigger reward? Or why is he lucky enough to be able to pay his bills this month and I'm struggling? All right? Why? I also put on tefillin every morning. Hashem, everything is custom tailored and it's all for our benefit. And the more we connect to Hashem, the more we'll feel feel that, the more we'll see that, and the more Hashem maybe doesn't have to test us as much if we recognize that without the tests. So we have to always be cognizant of that fact. There's no coincidence. We see this in two places in this week's parsha from the Alshich HaKadosh, telling us this, that everything is custom tale. I'll just share another idea. Again, I tried to look it up. I couldn't find where it was. But the pasuk says, Pesach tiftach es yadecha, right? I'm actually probably misquoting it. No, I'm not. I see it. I got Pesach tiftach es yadecha. Open your hand. Why is the lashon open your hand? Give money. Send a wire. We don't always open our hand to give tzedakah. So I heard once the idea is that when a person doesn't want to give tzedakah, when his hand is closed, right? You know, this is a famous idea, but it applied to here. When a person closes his hand, all his fingers are the same length, except for the thumb, but the other four fingers are the same length. So a person thinks when some ani comes and asks him for tzedakah, he thinks, why doesn't he go to work like I do? Why doesn't he make investments like I do? Why is it my responsibility to take care of him? But when you open your hand, the Torah says, Pesach tiftach es yadecha, then you see that all the fingers are different lengths. He may not have the same abilities. He may not have the same opportunities. Whatever it is, that's all part of Hashem's cheshbon. It may be that Hashem made you one finger that has an easier time making parnasa, and this person doesn't have those advantages, and therefore we should never judge. When you close your hand, you tend to say, this guy, let him go to work. Why doesn't he get a job? But when you open your hand, you realize we all have different things in our lives. We all have different talents. We all have different things, and Hashem custom tailored it. And for whatever reason, at this moment, this person needs your help to give him some money to help him pay his bills. So that's our job. You're a different finger than him. Don't look at him with a closed hand and say, let him do what I do. We all have different skills, different talents, different abilities, different opportunities, different backgrounds, different families, and we should never judge somebody else just to help that person, help him get back on his feet. But to remember that this is the position that Hashem put us in. It's not my money. It's the money that Hashem entrusted me to help other people who need it. And we should be zeicher to always be cognizant of this. I wish you all a beautiful, wonderful Shabbos.